Hi, I'm Lindsay from Lindsay Elliott Coaching, and I'm back with video number 2 in a little free series all about unlocking your time and your energy with more ease. So in the last video I did an introduction to this series, which really is just about looking at some of those things that we believe we need to manage, that we believe we need to control, and that we can take off of our mental to-do list. So in the video last week, which I will put a link to in the description box below, we looked all about not having to manage our emotions, as being able to take that off of our to-do list. And in this video, we are going to look at confidently saying no. So why is this topic on this, series? Why have I included it? Because it's one of the areas that I see within myself. I have quite a history of people pleasing, but I see it also a lot around me, is that a lot of people seem to struggle with this. They seem to get really caught up in setting boundaries, saying no to things they don't want to do, or saying no to things that they don't have the time or the energy or the resource for, because they've got lots of beliefs about what's going on in other people, what it means about them. And a lot of time and headspace can be caught up in thinking about how to say no, whether I should say no, should I say yes, should I say that I don't like this behaviour, should I set this boundary, and then having a good old think about it, and then getting really worked up about it, and then maybe just saying yes because it feels easier than saying no, or not setting the boundary and putting up with the behaviour. And all of this takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, and this series is about trying to reduce that kind of time and energy that's spent on things that we don't maybe have to spend our time thinking about or worrying about quite so much. So how do we kind of get around this? So I want to start by looking at what are the things that are going on when we believe that we can't say no, or we can't confidently say no. Or set a boundary. So really I'm going to talk about these two things together because it's really the same process that's going on. So first off, the most major thing that other people worry about when setting a boundary or saying no to something that they don't want to do is how the other person is going to feel. So if someone invites me to an event and I really don't feel that I want to do that, or I don't have time for that or space for that, but I could squeeze it in and I don't want to say no, it's because I'm imagining that they will be disappointed, either that I can't be there, or disappointed in me, or they might think something about our friendship or our relationship, or about what sort of person I am. And we're thinking all about how are they going to feel? How is my no, or my setting a boundary about a behaviour or something that isn't acceptable, how are they going to feel? Now, there's a couple of misunderstandings in there. Number one is that our brains, our minds, love to believe that they can imagine what other people are going to feel. And some of the time our mind or our brain gets it right, but a lot of the time it doesn't. I know I have so many examples in my own life where I've had to set a boundary or say no to something, and I've imagined someone's going to be really angry or disappointed or distressed or upset by what I've said, and they've just kind of gone, oh, okay, then no problem. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then other times when I've said something that I haven't expected to be a problem, it's been a huge problem. So we can never predict how somebody else is going to feel. Now, our brain, which loves to try and keep us safe and loves to people please and have everybody loving us, because that feels better, would absolutely like to have us believe that it can make up what other people are going to feel, how they're going to respond, and it just simply isn't true. Our brains have zero crystal ball capability, which means it has zero capacity to look into the future and know how someone else is going to feel. The other misunderstanding that's in this is that what we do can make someone feel anything. So this can be a really hard one to kind of get our head around, and I've mentioned this in many of my previous videos. But what if the truth of how it's working is not that I say something? Yes, the person that who you're saying no to or setting a boundary with is absolutely going to have a response to that. But that response is so dependent on their current mood, their current state of where their mind's at, what they're feeling that day. It's never actually coming from what I have said. It is in the receiving person that the experience of that is occurring. because we are only ever feeling our own thinking. So if I say no about something, that person doesn't feel my no, they feel their response to that no. They feel their own thinking about that no. So that would depend on their mood, their levels of self-esteem. They might think, well, what does it mean that she doesn't want to come to my party or doesn't want to come to my dinner? Other people in a different mood might say, okay, yeah, no problem. So, but the response to it is always in the other person. Okay, so that makes us, we are not responsible for how other people feel or what their reaction is to our no or our setting a boundary. Now, that doesn't mean that we then go around trampling over other people's feelings. No, we can set our boundaries with love. We can say no with love and from a kind place. But what I'm really trying to point to is that other person is only ever feeling their own thinking about your no or about the boundary setting, not the actual act of it being done. That's completely neutral. And the other little piece to know about other people is, like us, like every human being, they're completely designed to handle their feelings. So even if they are disappointed or sad or upset or feel whatever you're saying isn't fair, if they feel that boundary setting isn't fair, like with children, they often have that feeling of my friends can do that, why can't I? But we are all 100% designed to be able to cope with and feel any feeling that comes along, because it's an energy and it moves through us, and we always come back to balance. So when we really understand that, it just becomes easier to know that even if we have got something difficult to say, even if we do really need to say no to something and we suspect that someone's going to be disappointed, when we know that they are going to be okay, they're going to have that feeling, they're going to feel all of those emotions and it's going to pass through and they're going to return back to balance, it makes it much easier to know it just isn't our responsibility. So the other reason that we can get caught up in not saying no confidently or not setting a boundary is because we have some kind of belief about what it means about us. So this is where it comes back. So that section was kind of all about other people. This little bit is all about us. So when we say no or we set a boundary, what we may come up against is our own feelings about if we have disappointed someone, if someone does have that reaction or they are upset with us. Particularly if we do feel insecure and we worry about our relationships and we are a bit of a people pleaser, that can be a really uncomfortable experience for us. When we kind of say, oh, and I made them feel really disappointed, look, they're really angry or they're sad, and then we kind of start to beat ourselves up and say, oh, I've been such a terrible person, maybe I shouldn't have said no, maybe I should have said yes, maybe I shouldn't have set that boundary, maybe I should have just let them get away with it, because we don't like the feelings within us. What's really good to know about that is, again, we are only ever feeling our own thinking, our own perception in the moment about having said no, about having met that boundary. And like I just said, we are totally capable to feel that feeling. But what we want to be able to just separate out is the story that the mind is telling us about it, either that we're bad or we're wrong or we shouldn't have done it, or people are relying on us and we need to meet everybody else's needs. Whatever the story is that the mind is telling about that feeling isn't the truth, isn't the 100% truth about it. It is merely a perspective that your brain's going to, plump out to you, I don't think I meant to say that, that your brain's going to, that's the word I was looking for, your brain's going to present to you as the truth of the situation. And we know that brains get it wrong all the time. Our perception is momentary, it's changing, it's shifting, and we know that you can set a boundary in 1 minute and feel terrible that you've done it and then be really relieved the next minute that you have done it and it actually worked out okay. So our feelings are constantly changing about things. None of them are the subjective truth, they are just a perception. So when we are worrying about setting a boundary and in that kind of people-pleasing mode, it's really helpful to know that whatever story the mind, whatever narration the mind gives us about that is not the truth of who we are. It's not the truth of the situation. It's just a perspective which almost certainly will be a perspective that comes from your habitual worn-out conditioning that you've heard 1,000 times before about how you're not good enough or how you should put other people first or whatever it is. But it's not the truth like the total objective truth of the situation of setting that boundary. I'm just going to have a little look at my notes to check what else I wanted to say. Yeah, so the last little point on that is that I really want to just say that when we're caught up in that story, in that narration about what it means if we say no to something or set a boundary, is that we are only ever feeling ourselves. So much as I said in the last section that other people are only feeling themselves, they're not feeling us directly, well, the same is true of us. We aren't feeling that other person's disappointment. We are feeling our thinking about their disappointment. We're only ever feeling ourselves. And that feeling is going to change, it's going to move, it's going to shift because it's an energy. It's not a solid truth we can pick up and put in a bucket. And that has been so helpful to me to know that any time that I'm worried or fearful or afraid of setting a boundary or saying no, that whatever reaction I get to that is, one, is going to be a story, and number two, it's going to be my own thinking. I'm going to be feeling me 100% of the time and not the other person. And that I know that with time and space, that feeling's just going to move on and a different perspective's going to come through. So the last little bit that I want to say about this is another big area that I see with this, is that usually wrapped up in not being able to say no to things or set boundaries is that we have this belief that other people's needs are more important than ours. Now, this is quite a prevalent belief in our society, particularly for women, but also for men, or people of any gender, particularly for parents. But also, you know, if you're someone's daughter or son and looking after an elderly parent, there can be a lot of conditioning around other people's needs are more important. And I just want to point out, because that can be really hard to see through, that again, like any belief, it's just a thought that's been thought 1,000 times over. And this is particularly a belief that's just been thought by society, so we label it conditioning. But that doesn't mean that it's true. It doesn't mean that you have to listen to that conditioning. Because when we can pull back a bit and see, how could that be true? How could it be that somebody else's needs are more important than mine? Like, if we're all born equal, we're all born with the same kind of worth and good enoughness, which is just built into us. If we hold that perspective that, oh, in order to be seen as a good person, I've got to put other people first, that's really just coming from a place of insecurity and of not feeling good enough. And that's the thing that's trying to be avoided. So when we have this pattern in our lives of kind of being the martyr or being the victim or putting other people first when really we're too tired to do something, or we just don't want to do it, or we really just need to recharge our batteries, but we plough on through, usually underneath that is some sense of not being good enough and believing that our worth comes from helping other people, being kind, putting other people first. It makes us a good person. But what if just none of that is true? What if that is just a subjective belief that's been thought by thousands of people in society, and we've taken that on to be our truth? And that can absolutely be questioned. Now again, that I'm not saying that we don't help people when we want to. I'm not saying we can't sometimes put other people's needs first. I'm not saying that we can't all help each other out. But what I'm saying is that when it's what we really want to do is have a look inside and see where is this people pleasing coming from? Where is this belief that I can't say no to something that I don't want to do? Where is this belief coming from that it means something about me if I set a boundary? And usually there's some version of not good enough, feeling insecure, and believing a story about what kind of person you need to be in order to be liked, loved, approved of, seen as a good person. And all of that is held in thought, and none of that is objectively true. So I just want to summarise then how I feel that this helps us to say no confidently, or to set a boundary confidently. So how this understanding that I've explored briefly in this video has really helped me is really to see that all of those reasons why I wouldn't say no to something, or why I wouldn't set a boundary, which is believing I'm responsible for other people's feelings, or that I can make someone else feel something, or that I can know how someone's going to respond. Also believing that if I say no and someone's disappointed or has a story in their head about me, means something about who I am, means something about my worth. And also knowing that, or believing that other people's needs are more important than my own, and I must always put other people first because that makes me a good person or a kind person, or how I want to be seen, or affects my worth in some way. When I know that all of that isn't the objective truth, it is a lot of conditioning, it's a lot of subjectivity, and that there's lots of tricks of the mind there that would tell me that it knows how other people are going to feel, what it means about me, and that the story it's trying to tell me about me, my life, and saying no isn't true, it becomes absolutely easier to know that it's really important for me to have a look inside myself and say, is this a yes, is this a no? Because we've always got that within us, this internal yes or no, and the rest of it that comes up is just story around it, is just fears, beliefs, thoughts, conditioning, and the potential of feeling feelings that I maybe don't want to feel, but knowing that I'm 100% built to feel them. So for me, this has really helped when you kind of can pull away the sticks of the kind of structure that makes saying no difficult, or setting a boundary difficult because of what other people are going to feel, or what you're going to feel, or how you're going to be perceived, and the stories of the mind. When we can unpick those, kind of bits of wood at the bottom, the whole structure can fall down, and we can just be much freer to say yes or no to whatever it is that we want to do in a kind way. I hope this has been helpful, and I do actually just want to leave you with a quote that I came across many years ago. It's by Natalie Lue, L-U-E, and I think it really it's just a really lovely reminder, I think, as well. So it says, if we don't say yes authentically, we say yes resentfully, and that leads to far more problems than if we'd said no in the first place. So I'll just read it again. If we don't say yes authentically, we say yes resentfully, and that leads to far more problems than if we'd said no in the first place. So that's by Natalie Lue, L-U-E. And I love that because I think it really points to the fact that we really do need to listen for that internal yes or no. It's totally okay to put our own needs first when we need to. And that I've had that experience so many times when I've said yes to something that I haven't wanted to do, and it's gone pretty badly, and I've just felt resentful the whole time. And who wants that energy? Who wants someone to show up at their party or show up at their dinner or do them a favour with all of that resentment inside? It doesn't serve anybody, I think, is really the point of what I feel of that quote. So I hope this has been helpful. Please leave me any comments or questions, get in touch with me, and if you have enjoyed this video, there's 2 more in the series coming, so please do like and subscribe to my channel so that you can know when those are released. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.